Well, good morning, everybody. It is April 1st, in some places of the world, April Fool's Day. Maybe a perfect day for us to begin our first rehearsal here in Las Vegas for the Grammy pre-show. We'll find out what kind of jokes are being played on us when we get to rehearsal. Have to meet downstairs in 1 hour at the desk to be walked over to where the rehearsals and the gig are going to be in the hotel. We got in last night, and the assault on your senses when you walk in these places. We're in the MGM Grand, and it's just like first off, it's nothing but tons of girls walking around in skirts that look like belts. And it's just like, really, this is what you think is hot? Come on. And just like the whole scene of it, Vegas has always been just so bizarre to me. I just played here a million times. My grandfather lived here at one point, but still, it's another world altogether. But work is work, and we are here, and we are going to kick some butt. It's going to be a great show. I noticed that people were trickling in. I came with Luis Conti and some of the string players. We flew in together, and I think Harry Kim was already here. Maybe George was already here too, the horn section from Phil Collins's band. It's gonna be wonderful musically. So, but I thought I'd get some music in today. And one person I've talked about a great deal in it, it appears I can't find that I've ever posted anything. So I'm hoping that when I do this, it doesn't get blocked. Don't make that my April 1st thing, is blocking Véronique Sanson. I loved Vera so much. We first worked back around 1973 or so, when I was doing an album with Stephen Stills at Caribou Ranch, one of the great studios out in the mountains of Colorado. And Vera was married to Stephen at the time, and she, I can't remember if she just had Christopher or was pregnant with Christopher, but their son, Christopher Stills, who's a really gifted artist in his own right, was part of that in some form or other. But we finished Stephen's work, and he said, let's do a couple of tracks on my wife's new album. And Vera was there, and she sat down at the piano, and I kind of went, wow. And Vera's been pretty much, she's like the Joni Mitchell, Carole King of France. I started working with her on a regular basis in 1992, and we worked for about 10 years, and then I finally had to stop working with her, not musically, but because of issues with the French tax people were kind of trying to screw me over, trying to charge me taxes I had already paid. They were saying I still owed them, and they kept adding, like all kinds of, doubling, tripling. And I just finally said I can't come in anymore. I did one project for her, and my salary was attached by the government without explanation and without paperwork, so I just had to eat it. There was no way to prove that, write it off on my taxes as like a bad faith thing. So that has nothing to do with Vero. It's just like, I've talked to, that's when I worked with Michel Polnareff. And he was a huge star in France, and we went over there to perform, but he was having issues with the tax people in France, so we ended up playing in Luxembourg and Belgium. Did a gig in Brussels, and all the French people who wanted to see him took trains to come see him because he couldn't step over the border or he would have been arrested. So it's all so nuts. But I want to visit Vero on this project that we did. We did the first album I did with her after the early 1970s things was an album in 1992 called Sans Regret. But the fascinating thing with Vero, now I really implore you, look up her life in Wikipedia. It is really a remarkable life. And I remember both her parents were still alive when I started working with her, Renee and Colette Sanson. And I'm just going to read a little bit about them. They were so amazing. It says, both her parents, Renee and Colette Sanson, were members of the resistance during the German occupation of France. Before the war, Renee Sanson was a French diplomat in The Hague. When the Germans invaded the Netherlands, he sent coded messages to warn the French government that Germany was planning to attack France from across the Belgian border. This very message was decoded by Colette, a communications worker at the French Ministry of War. It was not until a few months later that they met in person in a resistance cell. Both became prominent within the resistance. In 1994, after the bombing of a German train, Colette was arrested and sentenced to death by the occupation forces before she managed to escape. After the liberation of Paris, Véronique Sanson was appointed Minister of Labor in Charles de Gaulle's provisional government. The couple married in 1945. As a lawyer and an economist, Véronique Sanson remained involved in politics as a member of Parliament and deputy of the 13th District in Paris until 1967. In 1970, he was in charge of the French delegation at the Osaka World Expo. Véronique first visited Japan on this occasion, so she was obviously either a newborn or her mom was pregnant with her. Vero grew up in a very privileged Parisian home. She attended the École Haute Mer, a private school. Her parents considered music the finest art there was and emphasized the musical apprenticeship of their daughters, because Véronique and Viole, her sister, are both amazing. Her mother introduced her to guitar, while her father, who was a great fan of jazz, taught her piano at the age of 4. At the age of 13, she had already composed her own songs, influenced by the Beatles, Ray Charles, and by Dionne Warwick's peculiar vibrato. In '65, she was struck by amnesia after a severe bout of meningitis that left her with few and fragmented childhood memories. And it goes on and on about this family and Vero's life and all this stuff. I mean, I'm scrolling and it just goes on. She's fascinating. She's an absolutely fascinating artist. But I'm going to leave the rest of the discovery up to you. On this album, I mean, touring with her was great. It's pretty rare that I go on the road with an artist who carries their own concert Bosendorfer piano with them on the road. And it was funny. She's just such a level-headed, normal person, you know. But like we would be out on the road and we would like go into like a shopping mall and people would just stop, freaking out, going, "That's Véronique Sanson. That's Véronique Sanson. Wow." You know, and I'm kind of sitting here going, she's this character I know. I mean, she's so funny and so interesting. I loved working with her. We had such a great time. We toured all French municipalities, and we would go into Belgium and maybe Western Switzerland, any place where French was spoken. And we went up and did a Francophiles up in Quebec. But on this album, I'm going to go ahead and play a couple of tracks from this album. And she's a beast live. I mean, she just plays and sings her ass off live. She's amazing. So it's Vero on piano and vocals on this. It's myself on bass. Carlos Vega and Chester Thompson shared drumming duties. Michael Thompson on guitar. The great Hervé Leduc on piano, keyboards, and did all the programming for this. The Memphis Horns are on this. Vince Denham is on sax, Larry Cohn on synth, and Karen Briggs on violin. Now, the executive producer for all the stuff we did was, his name was Bernard St. Paul. And I'm still in touch with Bernard, too. So, I mean, it's like these people, you do these projects, but then things move on. But when friendships are there, they stay there, kind of beyond just a gig. It's not just a gig. And we did follow-up tours. We did a tour that was a tribute to the greatest love of her life, Michel Berger, and we had a great band for that one. Each band has been slightly different on the tours that we did, but we had a 48-piece orchestra from Prague on that tour, and I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. So I'll visit a bunch of that stuff. But for right now, I'm going to just visit a couple of songs from Sans Regret, which was my actually second studio project with Véronique. So this is Véronique Sanson from 1992. Here we go. This is called Panne de Coeur.
chagrin, je vais dans l'appartement, serrant les poings. J'ai peur.
Most guys get...
Oh, please. Please. I'm going to start this one over again. God, it never ends.
Il est 4h et je l'attends, j'ai du chagrin, je vais dans l'appartement, serrant les poings. J'ai peur, je viens dans l'ombre vagabonde, et puis là j'entends le bruit des secondes qui fait un. Panne de cœur, panne de cœur, panne de cœur, panne de cœur. Il est 4h et je l'attends, toujours en vain, il y a un accident sur le rond-point. J'ai peur, et mon cœur a sauté comme une bombe, mais ce n'est qu'une larme qui tombe, qui fait un. Panne de cœur, panne de cœur, panne de cœur, panne de cœur.
Tough, good attitude in it. When we would tour, we always had great Neil Wilkinson played drums on most of the tours we did. Great English drummer who lived between LA and London. And one tour he wasn't able to do it, and Kurt Biscara came in and did it. We had Dwayne Bailey playing guitar on one of the tours. We had Lee Thornburg and just a great horn section. So it was always great. The live shows were just amazing with her, and she's just a ferocious performer. So here's, actually I'll do this one last. This is called Rien que de l'eau. And we did a show, the Franco Follies in La Rochelle, and there's stuff on YouTube from that concert that was really great, where they were honoring her, and they brought in all these different performers to perform with her, and we got to do it. And one of my favorites was a group called I Murvini from Corsica, and the song we did with them is just absolutely stunning, La Tante Sassin. So here we go, Rien que de l'eau. Oh Jesus, boy, Vegas, not getting away from the ads here on the internet. That's for sure. I'm going back to the top again. God damn it.
touche-la et s'en le sert. C'est un don miraculeux. C'est la naissance de la gabelle. C'est l'oublié des infidèles. À la terre des futurs dieux. Rien que de l'eau, de pluie, de l'eau de là-haut. Et le soleil blanc sur sa peau. Et la musique tombée du ciel sur le point mouillé de Rio. Oh. Toi, tu te caches dans les ruelles. Et comme un païen qui appelle les dieux pour qu'elle dise non. Oh, tu sais, elle a le temps. Elle est là depuis 1000 ans. Elle te suit comme une ombre. Rien que de l'eau, de pluie, de l'eau de là-haut. Et le soleil blanc sur ta peau. Et la musique tombée du ciel sur les toits.
Streaming is so slow here. Michael Thompson.
En attendant l'orage, elle te pardonnera ton âge et l'argent de tes cheveux. Tu ne peux pas te passer d'elle. Tu ne vivras jamais sans elle. Tu n'auras que l'eau de tes yeux. Rien que de l'eau, puis de l'eau de là-haut. Et le soleil blanc sur ta peau. Et la musique tombée du ciel sur les toits de Rio. Oh. Rien que de l'eau, puis de l'eau de là-haut. Et le soleil blanc sur ta peau. Et la musique tombée du ciel sur les toits de Rio. Oh.
And Michael Thompson's such a great guitar player. I love working with him. Here's the last song. This is the title track from the album. This is called Sans Regret. Here we go. Hopefully no more commercials. Boy, hit Vegas and you get loaded with commercials. Wow. I love the mood of this song.
Dans cette ville, qu'est-ce qu'elle peut bien faire pour calmer sa colère? Comme une louve solitaire, elle est partie pour chasser la brume de son cœur éclaté. Elle est partie appelait vers les anciennes dunes que les dieux adoraient, sans regret, sans regret. Comme si elle se voyait mal et qu'elle voulait en rire. Elle a juste à savoir pour qu'elle vienne à son cœur.
Turn your home into a modern paradise.
Wow, wow, wow.
Qu'il ne sache jamais comment une femme meurt. Ce silence tout autour d'elle, c'était leur tyrannie. Ces petits fronts suants de platitude, c'est leur seule attitude. Jamais le vent de ses racines n'était venu jusqu'à moi. Je voudrais qu'elle se dise, je me pardonne mes fautes qui m'ont un jour offensé. Et je dirai tout haut que j'ai un jour aimé, sans regret, sans regret. Et elle fuit une nuit où la lune l'appelait vers les anciennes dunes que les dieux adoraient, sans regret, non sans regret.
I mean, to me, just fascinating writing. Her compositional skills are amazing, and Hervé did such a beautiful job with arrangements and programming on everything. But we did so many projects together, and we would do live things, Taratata, this big French TV show. We did that a bunch of times, and all kinds of stuff. I so treasure the time I got to work with Vero. Spent so much time in France with her, and at one point, I remember we were coming down to breakfast, and we were in some little village in the middle of France somewhere, and she said, "Let me order you breakfast," and I said, "Okay, fine," and the most beautiful steak arrived, just perfectly grilled and cut, and it had potatoes and all this, and I'm eating it, and I looked at her and I said, "This is probably the best steak I ever ate." This was back when I ate meat. I said, "This is probably the best steak I ever ate." And she looked at me coyly and went, "It's a mushroom." And apparently in this village, in this area, it's the only place on earth that these mushrooms would grow. They made a portobello look like nothing. It was this big, unbelievable thing. And I thought, if I lived here, I'd eat this every day. It was just like it was like a gift from above kind of thing. It was amazing. She turned me on to a lot of great stuff. She's a absolute treasure, and she's still working her ass off. I think she's celebrating her 50th anniversary in the business this year. I mean, I remember when we played the Olympia every time, but I think we did like 26 nights at the Olympia, and it became like a regular job. We'd walk down from Pigalle, where we were staying at the Mercure, Neil Wilkinson and I, and we would walk there every day. And halfway there was this fabulous crepe stand, and this lady ran it. And she'd see us coming every day, and by the time we got to the crepe stand, she had the crepes we liked waiting for us. It became such a routine. It was pretty fantastic. But I better get going. I got to be upstairs in the lobby to head over in about 30 minutes. I got to upload this. Ukraine is still hideous, horrible. These poor people, I watch them on the news. I'm sitting here thinking about, I'm on my way to do sound check for the pre-Grammy show with all the great music, and I'm thinking these people barely living at this point, running food and water and shelter, and being their friends and families being destroyed, and it's unbelievable how to try to balance this, how to come to grips with what goes on in this world. And had my second booster yesterday, a touch sensitive where the shot was, but nothing. I feel totally fine, and just very glad I'm going to be with a lot of people, and I'm really glad to have just this extra layer of protection. I came walking in here last night. I walked through the airport, came here, hardly a mask to be seen. I mean, everybody was masked on the plane, but man, I'm in the terminal and there's signs everywhere, must wear mask. And I'm looking at all these people going, can't you read? None of them are wearing masks. So I just want to protect myself as best I can. And that's it. So, and the sooner that's over with, then these people who have been working the front line for over 2 years can actually get back to their families again and get back to some normalcy for themselves. So thank you all. I'm out of here. I will see you all tomorrow, and I'm going to try to film stuff and take pictures here in the rehearsal once we get going, and give you hopefully some backstage insight into what the hell we're doing. So I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.